Excellent. So my name is Matt Gifford. I have a confession to make. I am an Eclipse user. That probably explains the receding hairline and the necessity to drink profuse amounts. But as a result, this led me to the topic of this subject, which is automating PhoneGap Build. I want to explain that a little bit more as we go on because the process is pretty well automated as it is. But if you want to harass me at any time, feel free. Nice comments are more than welcome. But I have my own company, and we are a consultancy firm. And basically, I go in and fix stuff for people and help them streamline their workflows and introduce them to new ways and new processes that could help their workflow, help save them time and money, and a hell of a lot of stress as well. I want to start off with a very, very simple question. Who here likes their job? Sweet. Who here likes going home after the job? Not as many people. That's a little bit random. Okay, Workaholics Anonymous. We live in such a busy day and age now. We're pushing apps out by the dozen. We're creating web applications, websites. We have a lot on our shoulders now. A lot of organizations turn to us and we need to build stuff quickly because they know it can be turned around quickly. But we have a hell of a lot of stuff at home. And currently missing the little boy at the moment, but that's all good. I'll see him in a couple of days. But we have home life, we have family, we have kids, we have hobbies, we have extracurricular work because we're geeks and we like to learn stuff in our free time. There's a lot that we need to get home for. We don't want to be tied to the desk forever. We want to be home by 3:30, and enjoy a beer. Or if you work from home like I do sometimes, then you want to at least get dressed so you're not in your pants after 3:30. But to do that, you need to think about how you work, how you can improve your workflow, how you can optimize it, and how you can get the most out of what you do. It is all about time management. And yes, it's one of those really boring, wanky management things that people say, time management. But it's really, really important. Now we're going into the mobile landscape, and we have been for the last couple of years. We are faced with an enormous, enormous problem, as Max showed, creating for the multiple devices, the multiple formats, all of those bloody phones you have to carry around. Dude, your shoulders must be killing you at the airport. But we have to cater for all of these. And it can be a right pain in the arse. Seriously, it can be a massive pain in the arse. When we had to compile applications for each specific vendor, when BlackBerry Playbook came out and they were delivering stuff on air, the packaging stuff and the requirements they had to go through was totally different from the other vendors that were pushing stuff out on the same format. It was a massive, massive headache. We don't want to do that. The aim really is to make things as simple and as easy as possible. It's true. But we have PhoneGap. And PhoneGap is awesome. And now we're on version 2 and hopefully pushing it. I think you're going to announce 3.5 later, is that right? Sweet. But PhoneGap made things so much easier. Whether you're using Eclipse, whether you're using Xcode, whatever the language, whatever the platform, you had the ability to create for cross-devices, for cross-platforms, very, very simply. And it made it fantastic. But I want to talk to you really about pushing up to the PhoneGap cloud. We have the cloud service now with the dangerous stunt hamster. And the cloud has really changed the way that we can create our apps. Has anyone here used the Build PhoneGap service? Surprisingly not many, actually. Are the rest of you still awake? You are, kind of. Well, the Build service is a game changer as far as I was concerned. We were stuck to the IDE, whether you're using Sublime, Eclipse, Xcode, you were stuck to a particular development environment. Thanks to PhoneGap Build and the cloud service, you can use Notepad if you want to. If you want to kick it old school, you can just code, create your application, upload it to the service, and theoretically the job is done. It will compile everything for you for however many different platforms you want it to, and we'll give you the option to download them. So for those of you that haven't been, make sure you check out build.phonegap.com. It is the future until Brian's talk later on when it's probably been deprecated. But you have everything under one roof, and you have one very simple, very clean, lovely, restyled interface to make things much more manageable. You have the ability to download straight away onto the device using the QR code. You can download the APK or the native packaged applications directly to your desktop if you wanted to. They are App Store ready. Your job is done. You literally create the code, send it up, and have a beer. So the process really, once you've created your code, it is a case of uploading it. If you have requirements for iOS or any other platform that needs a provisioning key, then you can provide that as well, very simply in a text box. The applications will be compiled for you. You can download it. Cheers, I'm off. But wait, that is awesome. We know that's awesome. If you haven't used it, check it out, then you will figure out that it's awesome. But we can improve it. We can automate the automated processes a little bit more because we want to be home by a particular time. We want to finish. We want to go home to the family. We want to have the beer. We want to play racquetball or do cosplay, whatever your fancy is. So we can do this by taking a few steps, and if we think a little differently about our requirements, what we actually need to do when we create an app, the processes that we possibly replicate and duplicate that we don't have to, we can enhance our workflow, and if you're a nerd like me, it could possibly be a little bit fun. It might bring a smile to your face. But can it be automated? Yes, kind of. Because the system is automated enough. Once you've uploaded a file, as I said, it does it all for you. You literally push a button, it compiles it, it's done. The kind of thing is we can enhance it, but we can't fully automate it. We still need some level of human interaction. We need a human controller. We need someone there to manage the processes, to start the ball rolling, and to make sure that it doesn't all go wrong. That's very, very important. It would be fantastic if we can create a truly automated system, one click of a button, everything's done. But we still need the human interaction. We still need someone there to make sure that it's as we expect. So when it comes to automated processes, who can benefit? Well, the obvious answer is everyone. From the solo developer, that's little Johnny up in his bedroom coding away. He doesn't drink after midnight. The caffeine doesn't go well for him. Or if you're working in a large team, if you have a big project, so regardless of who you are, regardless of your working environment or what team you work in, you can benefit from the automated processes. We've already seen it when Adobe launched Dreamweaver, the latest version. They had the PhoneGap Build stuff built in to a panel. So you create your code, and once you'd actually signed in, you could send it up, and it would bring it down, and you could download it straight away from within the IDE. It's there. But you're still restricted to an IDE in a way. Is there a way we can actually break out of the IDE? The core part of the actual build process is the config.xml file. That's the skeleton to how this all works. You can create your code, but you can really fine-tune the process and the automation offered by the PhoneGap build by defining particular parameters in the config.xml file. Now, I'm a Cold Fusion developer, by the way. I don't know if anyone still thinks it's alive. It is. And there are a few of us who use Cold Fusion Builder, which is based on Eclipse. And we would love to be able to use this for our PhoneGap development. But as of yet, there isn't a way to do so. Some of the guys actually said they wanted to be able to create the config file, but they had trouble necessarily understanding what each of the values needed to be. So I created a little plugin. At the moment, it only works in Cold Fusion Builder because it runs off Cold Fusion. But it will allow me to generate a config.xml file, directly within the IDE, and it will place it into the project folder from where I clicked it. And it gives the hints and pointers of whatever's needed. If I've missed out anything, it'll tell me what I need to add in. I can also select my images, and it will rename those. Well, that bit's failed a little bit. But it will rename those to the correct name that PhoneGap Build expects. I can also change the access permissions. So if I want to use an external resource, I can define specific domains, or I can define a global domain, and it will create everything for me. If I run that process and I already have a config.xml file there, this thing will actually pop up and say, you've already got one. Do you want me to load it in for you? And if I choose yes, it populates all the fields and I can amend it. So I basically did that to help me in my workflow. I wanted to be able to do something within the IDE that I was comfortable with, and it made things a lot easier. Now this is the generated code from that. So as you can see, I chose a couple of images to go in there. I've had a domain. I basically selected all of the permissions. I wanted everything. And the output code was done. All I had to do was use a UI. So that was my way of helping to streamline things. But we also have the PhoneGap Build API now, which allows us to interact through requests. We have the read or the write API. We have to send in our username and password once we've signed up for the project. But it's incredibly simple. So just using an HTTP basic authentication, we can access all the stuff however we want to, really. So you can create your own customized workflow using what's there. You can create and delete projects. You can assign specific signing keys. You can force a build. You can gather the build status of any projects that you have. It's very, very cool. Now, coming from the Cold Fusion Java side of things, I'm used to using a tool such as Hudson or Jenkins. I don't know if you guys have used that at all or are familiar with it, but it's a continuous integration tool. So it merges in with SVN or Git. So when I have my source code and I push it up, I can tell Jenkins, this is my source code. As soon as you detect a new build, create the package for me and deploy it. I literally have to do one commit and it's done. So I got to thinking I'd quite like that for PhoneGap too. So I built a process to do that, kind of. So what we want to be able to do is to emulate what the PhoneGap build services offer us, and we can use it comfortably. Now, because I'm kicking it old school and we've got Eclipse, I'm using Apache Ant just because it runs for me. It will run for you guys as well. And defining a very, very simple XML file with the tasks that I want it to do, I can get it to take out the code that I need from a particular project, move it to a separate source folder, zip it up for me, send it straight up either to a new PhoneGap build project or to an existing one. I can then actually have it download directly to my Android virtual device on the desktop, which was running until I got here in the crappy Wi-Fi. So I will give it a try and see if something works. If not, then it's no dice, I'm afraid. So I want to create a new app from files. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to build these files. So the stuff within this PG productivity folder, that should have built. So if I do a quick refresh, we've got the source. And I want to zip. Now there was another task that actually combined both of those processes, but my clumsy British fingers selected the wrong one. So we have the starter zip. Job is done. I want to create a new task. Test that. So hopefully if that all works, it would be awesome. If not, I will show you in the form of interpretive jazz dance instead. But it has. You can see it's returned the stuff from JSON. If I wanted to add some extra code in my task to actually do that and pull out the values, then I could have worked with those directly. But I had, before I came up on stage, I had my one task from my repository on GitHub. If I refresh that now, we have another one. And it's actually given it that title because it sent up the config.xml file that I created earlier. So from within my one IDE, if I had have clicked the right task, it would have been one click. Compile, send up, done. It's all about making it much easier for you, much easier for anyone who works with your code. We now have Hydra as well. You can hydrate. It's a very, very new addition to the PhoneGap build services. I don't know if you guys have seen Hydra. But essentially what it does, you have a checkable option in the build.phonegap site that allows you to select an app for hydration. And once you choose that, it will recompile the application for you to a particular binary format. Then whenever you update that project and have that on your device, any subsequent updates to that project, whenever you start the application on your phone, it will detect there's a new version for you. It will pop up and it will give you the chance to download it directly to your mobile, which is way cool, I think you'll find. So it is magic. It's voodoo, awesome, sexy voodoo magic. But it works. It's another way to help streamline how you process. Through the API, You can also, if you're using GitHub, you can also force a pull request. So if you have a project in the PhoneGap build site that is attached to a GitHub repository, you can force a pull request from that, and it will then build the file for you, which is brilliant. There's another way as well, because that also requires a commit. You could create a task to commit and then run the request using the API, but there's a simpler way to do it. In GitHub, if you go to the admin screen at the top, that will open up this panel where you have an option to use service hooks. I don't know if anyone's seen this. Service hooks will plug into a lot of common bug trackers, project task management tools, and it has the top option is actually a webhook URL, which allows you to put in any URL you want to. And once you commit to that repository, that will basically do a data dump to that URL. It will just dump a load of form data. But the good thing about that is you can send it to wherever you want to, and once you've got there, that calling page can then do anything else you want to. So you go to the repository, commit, it does the dump, goes to that URL, it will do stuff for you. So I created a really simple Ruby app. I didn't have time to actually put the code in here. It doesn't store any information, it doesn't store your data, so if you want to use it, you can give it a try. And all you have to do is put a URL very similar to this in that web service hook, where you send in your email address, your password, your preferred skirt size, your email address, your password, and the app ID of the project on PhoneGap Build. And if you put an address exactly like that in the web services hook, when it hits that site will do the call and force a pull request for you. So as soon as you do a commit, it's already started building over on GitHub, over on PhoneGap. So in terms of the definitive answer, is there an ideal way to do it? No. Can you automate? Yes, kind of. But how you do it depends on what you need, on what your team needs, on how you work as a developer, on how your project manager tells you you're going to work as a developer, depending on your situation. But you choose a workflow that works for you, that optimizes your skills and makes your life much, much easier. And I think I'm just out of time, wasn't I? So thank you very much, guys.
I think, so we got a couple seconds for a couple questions. Oh, whoa, bunch of them. All right.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Is this one up? Oh, there you go.
Cool. Yeah, I use the build, and I think it's great. And I think it's great that you can actually just submit maybe your web source, and you still spit out something that's usable. Yeah. Is there the configuration online? You can say set your app name and your icon. You can. Is there any particular reason why, or have you thought about being able to do essentially configuration profiles online, so that this extra step you're doing in right now in the build, that you can basically configure everything you want that you would either have in your plist or your XML file, and generate apps with only having to submit the source? Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't included in that because I'm a lazy Brit. But any code you send up, you can configure that. Are you talking about actually having it on the PhoneGap build side as well? I'm on the build side itself. It's nice that you've got two features, I think, right now, the name and the icon. Is there any reason why you can't actually allow people to attach everything else that you put into a PhoneGap build
I didn't build it.
It's more of a, yeah, it's been talked about. I mean, PhoneGap build was sort of initially conceived more as a programmatic destination as opposed to the actual UI itself. People are using it for all kinds of reasons. We initially created it just because it was such a pain in the ass to set up PhoneGap. And we wanted to, and then you've got like Windows machines that you don't have Xcode, and then you have Xcode on your Mac, but you don't have a Windows virtual machine to do Windows Phone, and historically BlackBerry. So it was meant to be more of an API than it was an actual UI, but that's changing for sure.
Perfect.
And there's a guy here named Bruce Bowman, and you should find him and tell him everything you want in PhoneGap build. So he'll write it down. There's tons of questions. There's one over there, and that's easy to get to. So, way up over there, yonder.
Hi, we're currently building a PhoneGap app, and we're using PhoneGap Build. It's really awesome, as you said. But we also use plugins for several platforms. And
I can't actually find you. Sorry, where are you?
Over here.
You're over there. Sorry.
In that case, PhoneGap Build doesn't work with custom plugins. No. do you have any news on when that will be supported?
That's another one for you. I'm sitting down.
Soon.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
So I can say like this is definitely a Cordova problem first. Plugins exist as far as a programmatic API goes, but there isn't a solid path set yet for packaging a plugin. And then once we have validation and packaging of plugins, then we can automate things like installation and removal of plugins, which we've been talking about doing for a really long time, man, and it's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like to talk about what we've done, not what we're going to do, as Bruce would say. Any other questions? Maybe for Matt?
So we develop a native application for Android, iPhone, and Windows Phone 7, and we have complete automation for all three platforms. So we have basically virtual images. And we are in the PhoneGap for a few months, and the idea sounds good, but I'm interested if the one-click build solution is possible. So I want to build the same thing for PhoneGap, but only if it's possible with one-click integration in Jenkins. So is it possible, really possible, to say, I'm having here the sources in HTML5, I have my icons for this platform, I have the signing keys, and I would like to build for all platforms, like I've done also for Android, iOS, and Windows Phone 7.
Using that through Jenkins.
So no, I have one Jenkins instance, and we have 3 slaves. Mm-hmm. The iOS is not ready.
I mean, doing that.
But the other 2 are ready. So basically, we have we have a Mac which has an ant behind it, and we have the keys, and we get them from our Git, and we compile it, we sign, we email it, and we put it on a special app stores we have internally.
Okay. And
on Windows, the same.
Okay, and the question is, can you do that?
Can I do that from PhoneGap for all the platforms in one-click build? So I need just one click in Jenkins where I set up all my stuff, all the links or the folders. Can I do that?
Maybe in PhoneGap Build version 2. That's another one for Brian, I think.
Okay, so yeah, you can, but maybe you don't want to, depending on what you're doing. Like Max's talk illustrated, there's definite discrepancies between platforms, and those are, I think interaction designers would call it affordances. So the basic example, or the easiest example, iOS, there's no back button. So you got to have a virtual back button in the top left. If you do that on an Android users will think you're dumb. So you hide that button. But then there's a lot of other like small UI conventions that can be different between platforms. So you'll have some conditional code. And then you get into like when you're starting to augment your apps and do more and more things, you're going to end up writing some native code. So you want to use plugins. There's always going to be differences between these phones and platforms. We try and smooth out that surface area as much as we can and paint over all the ugliness, but as our config.xml demonstrates, there's a lot of shit that we just can't do, like icons.
Okay, so probably the idea is to have still locally the project set up somehow using the create command line and so on, and not going to the build PhoneGap.
Well, you can build full-on apps just with PhoneGap Build, for sure. But at some point, you're probably going to want to have stuff locally. Absolutely. Yeah, at least at the bare minimum to create your signing keys.
If you wanted to run the whole application process as you've described across the various sectors, and you have the keys, you have the images, it can be done. I off the top of my head, I don't know how. Right now, buy me a beer later and I'll tell you everything. But there will be a way. It might be a longer path to get there. So it's one of those things I think a lot of people are put off with automation and writing tasks like this because it seems like more work to get to a one-click solution than just doing a couple of clicks every time.
So I have a team of 18 developers, I think, who all thinks this is too much work to be done, but we achieved this in 1 week. So we have 3 platforms already automated. So.
Cool. So
okay, the iOS is not yet ready.
So to get them for all the others, it's going to be achievable. Call me.
All right, so we're going to take a break at this point. 10-minute break. Thanks, Matt.